Well, Jesus died around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Someone had to decide to take his dead body down, and so 2 secret followers of Jesus did something amazingly bold. They claimed his body. They risked their own lives in the process. And one was a rich man by the name of Joseph. Joseph was from Arimathea. The other was a prominent leader in Jerusalem, a man by the name of Nicodemus. And both of these guys had a lot to lose. Jesus had powerful and prominent enemies yet. Everyone associating with Jesus had a lot to lose. They could be at risk. They could lose their prominence. They could lose their money. They could lose their very lives. And at that point, it didn't appear that Jesus had much to offer in return. He was dead. John's Gospel, chapter 19, verses 38 through 42. Joseph of Arimathea asked Pilate for the body of Jesus. Now Joseph was a disciple of Jesus, but secretly because he feared the Jews. With Pilate's permission, he came and took the body away. He was accompanied by Nicodemus, the man who earlier had visited Jesus at night. Nicodemus brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 75 pounds. Taking Jesus' body, the 2 of them wrapped it with spices and strips of linen. This was in accordance with Jewish burial customs. At the place where Jesus was crucified, there was a garden, and in the garden, a new tomb in which no one had ever been laid. Because it was the Jewish day of preparation, and since the tomb was nearby, they laid Jesus there. Touching a dead body wasn't something that most people chose to do. In first century Israel, these 2 men were especially unlikely candidates for the job. 1, women prepared bodies for burial, and 2, prominent men never prepared bodies for burial. And number 3, Jewish religious teaching said that anyone who touched a dead body was temporarily disqualified from participation in worship. And this was, during this time, was the holy festival of Passover, and so they would be excluded from worship, but they did it anyway out of respect for Jesus. Now, can you picture this in your mind? Unnailing a body from a heavy chunk of wood, and then carrying it to a gravesite and washing the body off, wrapping it up, and laying it in the tomb. I don't think there was a moment of disgust in what they did, but I think that there was probably a profound sadness. I mean, their teacher, their friend, their Savior, the Messiah, now was dead. They thought, that they were burying their hope in that tomb with Jesus' body. And even though Jesus predicted it, no one really expected it to happen, but 3 days later, Jesus literally came back to life again. It was the biggest miracle that God had ever performed, and it's still the biggest and best miracle in all of history when you think about it. It proved everything, that Jesus was the Son of God as he said he was, that his death on the cross really worked to save people from sin and eternal death, and that God could give life after death to everyone who believes in Jesus. So here's what happened. John 20, verses 10 through 18. Then the disciples went back to their homes. But Mary stood outside the tomb crying. As she wept, she bent over to look into the tomb and saw 2 angels in white seated where Jesus' body had been, one at the head and the other at the foot. They asked her, "Woman, why are you crying?" "They have taken my Lord away," she said, "and I don't know where they have put him." At this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she did not realize that it was Jesus. "Woman," he said, "why are you crying? Who is it you are looking for?" Thinking he was the gardener, she said, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will get him." Jesus said to her, Mary. She turned toward him, cried out in Aramaic, Rabboni, which means teacher. Jesus said, do not hold on to me, for I have not yet returned to the Father. Go instead to my brothers and tell them, I am returning to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God. Mary Magdalene went to the disciples with the news, I have seen the Lord. And she told them that he had said these things to her. Mary was not an easy believer that first Easter morning. She assumed that Jesus was dead and would always be dead. And when she found out his body was missing, she blamed the gardener for taking it. Her tears had blurred her vision. She didn't recognize Jesus until he spoke her name, Mary. When she heard his voice, she not only believed, but she went and she hugged him. He was alive, really alive, voice and body and everything. She hugged him and held him and never wanted to let him go again. We who believe in Jesus this Easter understand that Mary's emotion. I mean, we share the excitement and the thrill of Jesus' resurrection, and when we hear Jesus call us by name, we want to throw our arms around him and never let him go.